Today I'll be mostly emptying our house into a storage unit. Sometimes I think my wife thinks our storage unit is like a TARDIS. How on earth am I expected to get all of that lot into that tiny little space that's already basically full? Lots of people have asked me over the last few days about aero rakes, the great big metal frames you see bolted onto the side of Formula One cars in pre-season testing. What on earth are they? How do they get on the car? Who makes them? What do they do? How do they work? Why are the teams running them? That's what today's vlog is going to be about. I'm not sure going home with 2 chairs from the storage unit was exactly what my missus had in mind, but hey, what can you do? I'm not a magician. So the aero rake, known as an aero rake because it is related to aerodynamics measuring, and it looks a bit like a common or garden rake. More technically, it's known as an air pressure sensor array because it houses an array of pressure sensors. That's what it's called. What does it do? Well, the teams use them to measure pressure differences in the airflow around certain elements of the car, particularly when they've got new parts on the car. We see them a lot at race weekends on a Friday during practice. If a team, for example, is trying out a new wing or a new barge board, they may want to get some real life data of exactly what's happening to the airflow structures and the air pressures around the car, given that they've now put this new aerodynamic piece on the car. We see them a lot, of course, in pre-season testing because the whole car is new at this point. Particularly this year, we've got a number of new elements, in particular the halo. The halo has a big impact on the airflow around the rear of the car and around the roll hoop structure, and teams will need to get some real life accurate data of exactly what's happening around those areas. Up until now, they've been using simulated data from their computational fluid dynamic simulation software, any data they may have collected from the wind tunnel, but now it's about correlating that. If you saw my video yesterday, it was about correlation, or it mentioned correlation. This is what I'm talking about, getting real life data to back up, to corroborate, and hopefully to confirm the data that you have from your wind tunnel and simulation tools. So how does it work? Well, every single one of those cross sections on that metallic crisscross frame that you see bolted to the side of the car, in each one of those cross sections is a tiny little air pressure sensor. Lots of them in some of those larger rakes, each one of course measuring air pressure at the individual point that it's mounted. That means that you get a section of the car, normally just behind a brand new part like the halo or like a wing or a barge board. You get that entire cross section, that entire area mapped out in terms of air pressure. The team then are able to work out or to understand how fast the airflow is over that particular section, how turbulent it might be, how efficient it's flowing, what kind of downforce that they might be being generated around that area as well. And the data that's collected from the sensors obviously comes back in a sort of series of numbers. The software that the team uses then translates that data, translates those numbers into a graphical map, pressure map of that particular part of the car. And using that graphical display, it's very easy to see just how that particular component is working in terms of aerodynamics. Somebody asked me in the comments section, how do they bolt to the car? Do the teams have permanent fixings already and always on the car, ready to take these devices or to bolt them on and off? The answer to that is no. They're made by the teams themselves, so they're designed and manufactured in-house to their own specific needs. They are an absolute work of art. In engineering terms, for something that, you know, it's a very temporary device on a Formula One car, these are absolute engineering pieces of artwork, something that high-end engineering companies anywhere around the world would be absolutely proud of, and would probably take, you know, a few weeks to a month or so to get these things delivered. Formula One teams are knocking them out at an incredibly alarming rate and with incredible accuracy and precision. So they make them themselves. They also make the brackets and the frames which attach them to the car themselves. They're normally clamped to the car at a certain point using this incredibly complex and fairly elaborate frame, as I say, designed and manufactured in-house. When you take them off the car, there's absolutely no trace that that thing was ever there. And that's crucial, of course. You can't have in a Formula One car extra mounting holes, extra bolting or fixing points on a car that you're not going to need when the thing's racing. Only things that are absolutely necessary are ever on a Formula One car. Somebody else asked me, do these enormous frames that are measuring aero on the car not upset the aero themselves on the car, given their size? Yes, the answer to that is yes, they do upset certain parts of the aero. So you could never go around looking for an absolute performance run from your car with one of these things on, because it makes the car aerodynamically inefficient. It also adds a considerable amount of weight, of course. But that's not what they're doing when they've got those items attached. They're normally on for short periods of time, just short runs, just to get that snapshot of data to exactly understand exactly what's happening with the airflow over those components. As soon as they've got that data, they'll take the aero rake off the car, put it in a box at the back of the garage, and leave it until next time. And don't forget, of course, these things have to be manufactured. These aero rakes and the frames that mount them specifically have to be manufactured every single time that there's a new car, or every single time that there's a new piece that needs to be measured. These are not things you can go and buy off a shelf, and every time the Formula One car changes, you have to have a new one or a new mounting bracket designed and manufactured to suit. So they really are kind of throwaway parts, which if you ever see one up close, you'll be amazed at the detail and workmanship that goes into them. But then that's Formula One, I suppose. So the answer to that question is yes, they do upset the aerodynamics of the Formula One car, but not at the specific point that they are measuring, and that's the crucial part. They're only measuring data at a specific point in the car, and that on that run is all they're interested in. Something else that somebody mentioned in the comments that I thought was interesting was somebody said, are these things safe? Well, the answer to that is a slightly complex one, because they're safe all the while they're running around perfectly attached to the car, and that car is not going around in close competition, let's say, with other Formula One cars. You know, they're very well designed, they're very well fitted to the cars, the teams take no risks in that kind of stuff. Everything is done properly, as you would imagine with a Formula One team. Wilson! Sorry, I just lost the dog. Here he comes. Good boy. So they're always fitted well to the car, they're always bolted on very securely, and these frames, these mounting frames that I'm talking about, are very well made. They're very sturdy. The problem that I can see happening is the day that, of course, one falls off. And particularly as they're sprouting up more and more at race weekends on a Friday, in front of the crowds, in front of the TV cameras, I can see a day or a point when the FIA or Formula One turn around to the teams and say, look, these are test items, let's save it for the tests, or, you know, let's have them under a certain size, because it's been noted that they are getting enormous. By the way, I haven't seen anything from testing yet today, just because I've been out and been busy, apart from the fact that I saw there was some snow this morning. Let me know what you think on this. When on earth are we going to start going pre-season testing in a place that's at least in some way representative of the racetracks and the countries that we visit during the course of the season? Every year we end up going to Spain, to Barcelona. It ends up being freezing cold. Nobody can get any work done on tyres. Everybody complains that it was useless. And all we actually get is cars pounding around putting mileage on, which I know is crucial at this time of year, it's important work, but we could do that in the sunshine. Let's go back to Kyalami, go back to South Africa like we used to in the olden days. I know it's more expensive, we've been to Bahrain pre-season testing before, but look, this is Formula One. We get 4 days per driver before we go racing. For me, it's important, not only on a performance level, you could even argue on a safety level, that we have a full understanding of how the cars work, how the tyres work, before we get into a full race situation where everyone's going full hell for leather and wheel to wheel. 8 days at Barcelona, when it's snowing, I can't see that that's going to give us all the information we need. And look, this is a problem that we've had forever. So I know it's not going to make or break Formula One, but it's just my opinion. We seem to have these arguments every year. Why don't we go somewhere hot and sunny for pre-season testing? Let me know what you think.